Yo guys, check out the link down below for the Sonic podcast. It's episode 4. We go over the entire series, and it's very offensive. You know, it was pretty depressing way back in the era when games first started to go 3D. The old gameplay styles were just pretty much dead, it seemed like. Discussions were always taking place like, how could another Metroid game ever be made? Because no way could it ever be done in 3D, and it's not like any company's ever gonna make a 2D game again. Sonic the Hedgehog, a pretty stellar series on the Sega Genesis, was sadly kind of cut short in its lifespan as well. Back in 1994 with Sonic and Knuckles, that was it. It didn't seem like anything else was going to come out. And even with Sonic Extreme, well, that game on the Saturn never ended up coming out, and it was just a desolate hole of nothing. Eventually, of course, we had Sonic Adventure, and that was really cool, especially at the time, but we also just sort of yearned for more levels of that old style. Handhelds were 2D, but even they rarely provided that glimpse of hope because oftentimes games that were just shoved onto the GBA or whatever, even taking games like the Mario series, they were basically just ports of NES games and Super Nintendo games. However, with 2001, Sega really got their crap together. They decided, you know, we're going to actually put out some interesting games on this system. Forget putting these random ports out and all of that, even though eventually Sega did do that kind of thing. They decided they were going to build an original series on the Game Boy Advance, and it was supposed to go back to the original style. Sonic Advance is also pretty interesting in that it's Dimps' first take on the series, the outsourced company that later became pretty synonymous with all of their 2D efforts, continuing on with Sonic Advance 2, 3, Sonic Rush, Sonic Colors DS, and an unknown level of involvement, which at least influences all of how the 3D Sonic games today play when they go into their 2D-ish side-scrolling portions. Despite being a handheld title, it's a pretty significant beginning. No lie, I was pretty blown away when I picked this title up again after nearly 10 years of barely even thinking about it. You know, it was just sort of one of those handheld games, who really cares? I'm not gonna really focus on playing this when it's time to feed my nostalgia, which is kind of a bad thing because this game, when I just recently picked it up again, was pretty damn awesome. The engine Dimps uses for their gameplay today has been slowly modified from how Sonic was originally played back in the Genesis days, basically creating its own brand new interpretation, but this is definitely classic Sonic. It really feels like the momentum is spot on. Sonic isn't immediately halting as soon as you stop pressing forward. No, nothing like that. There is actual momentum, the original Sonic momentum perfectly featured in this game. Similarly, you need to move a bit before you can actually gain some speed. The flow isn't as easy if you're a complete newbie to the series, but here the elegance is still featured, and it is so nice, where it truly feels like you're actually playing the game and that Sega themselves aren't holding your hand as you make your way to the finish line. I was really impressed with how well they nailed it. The level design is also really damn good as well, harkening back to the original Sonic the Hedgehog game design. It has the perfect balance between moving fast and then slowing things down and letting you platform, or at least think about what kind of jumps you're about to be making. More definite old school Sonic influence. There's some spots towards the end though that knock the game back just a slight bit though. While the overall level designs are still stellar, each level starts to have a spot or two that is just kind of moronic. A spring sends you flinging forward, automatically shoved up a ramp and flung into the air, but just miss some random ass moving platform sending you to an instant death. There's really not much of a chance for you to get out of that death except by luck until you memorize that, okay, at this specific spot, I better be holding forward and let go at this exact time. It's really frustrating because you'll be making the same mistake over and over, costing yourself many lives and then having to restart the level. Not a big fan of that, but really, in scope of the entire game, not that big of a deal. Though some picky people, especially those who are newer to video games, might consider this game a bit too short, Sonic Advance is still a really good game. It's well designed with areas that feel unique to each other and not just a ripoff of previous games. The music is good, the enemy design is good, the level design is good, at least for the most part, and there are just so many moments of old school classic Sonic in this title. So much more so than even a game like Sonic 4, at least in my opinion. For that alone, it's worth checking out. It sadly lacks a little bit of polish, but hey, what can you do? It's actually still very fun to play. For those that love to replay though, you can choose from Tails, Knuckles, and Amy Rose, who are all playable characters. And they do offer up a different kind of experience as well, which does extend the playtime a little bit, especially because these levels are fun to play through. And all of these characters work, and it's just pretty exciting to watch things play out. They also all have some new interesting moves too. Sonic Advance for the Game Boy Advance receives an 8 out of 10.